All right, so we all grew up reading Little House on the Prairie books, watching Little House on the Prairie on TV. I know it's just a thing, right? You all are with me on this. All right, so this is like part of our history, part of our culture, if we're Americans at all. I mean, we've all read the books and seen the TV shows. We had a chance to go recently on our trip cross country. We went to DeSmet, South Dakota, to visit the Laura Ingalls Wilder Historic Home and Museum. And that's a mouthful, but it's a really cool place. Okay, so before we dive into this, we're going to show you a bunch of footage that we saw, and we're going to go through it and share what we thought was cool and our reactions, our experiences there. Before we dive into that, real quick, right this week, as we're recording this in the middle of September 2022, we have the off-grid homestead bundle. I participated in this last spring, so some of you may have seen it then. We're doing it again. It's even bigger and better than it was before. Until September 25th, Sunday, September 25th, you can get in on this. If you're interested in homesteading or the nomadic lifestyle or off-grid living or just living simply and sustainably, this is for you. There's more than 100 ebooks, guides, and online courses. It's more than $6,000 in retail value, and you get it all for $50. It's a 99% discount. It's a crazy deal. You won't find anything else like it. But even if you're not ready to do this yet, you're just like thinking about it and looking into it, and a different lifestyle, a more simple, sustainable lifestyle, this is for you. So it's available through Sunday. And like Melanie was saying to me the other day, this is like NPR week when they're doing their fundraiser. Well, it's only available for 9 days total. It ends on the 25th. So after Sunday the 25th, you won't hear about it anymore. But until then, we want to make sure anybody that's interested has a chance to get it, because it is only available till the 25th. That's the only catch with all this, is that a whole bunch of different creators got together and pitched in their products, and it's a bundle thing. So you get a bunch at once, you get a heck of a deal on it, and we think there's a lot of value in it. Melanie's been sharing some of the excerpts or her reviews of some of the books and other guides, digital guides and stuff, just to show how vast of a variety there is with stuff. So, all right, enough about that. We're going to get back to the Laura Ingalls Wilder Historic Home and Museum. So we did a trip from Wyoming out to Massachusetts and New York to see some family and stuff. On our way back, we went out through Nebraska, which was really, really cool. Highway 20 across Nebraska. I had not been across that road before, so that was fun. We came back through South Dakota, and we jigged a little out of our way to the north to DeSmet, and we were able to check out this homestead and museum. I was a little skeptical, honestly. I mean, I've been seeing science for years and never made the hour or so detour. I don't know what I thought or what I expected, but it was way better than I expected. What do you think?
Yeah, I love the detail they had into it, and they really get into how the pioneers really lived, and you get so much information about the homesteaders, and I didn't realize how much they had moved, actually. I don't know if I want to get into that, but yeah, they moved quite a bit to get the best homestead they could for their families at different times.
Yeah, I there were several surprises for me. It was really insightful to learn more about that era of homesteading and how they lived. I had either forgotten or missed how many times they did move. And one of the things that really shocked me was the TV show was a little bit, because I did read the books too, but I think I had in my mind the size of their house and the layout of their house from the TV show and the size of their barn from the TV show. Well, we'll show you that stuff, but it's different. I promise you that. Okay, so we're going to dive into some of the stuff here. As you're coming down the road, you see a sign for Ingalls Homestead, of course, on a covered wagon. What else, right? So we had to stop for a photo, because why not, right? And I love that as you turn onto the street, you're on 209th Street or 209th Street. I'm not sure how they say it there in DeSmet. And you turn onto Homestead Road, right? I mean...
Yep, they kept the name.
One of the cool things after you leave the visitor center and go out onto the grounds to be able to tour this homestead is they have a tower, an observation tower that you can climb up. And if you're mobility impaired or if you're afraid of heights, it may not be the best thing for you, especially if you're, but it's a wooden observation deck, and it does give you a nice view from up there looking out across the property.
Yeah, a nice sense of the land that they use to do all their gardening, and I guess there were more cottonwood trees, they had said at one point.
They had apparently planted like a couple thousand.
Yeah, a lot. So there would be a lot more trees, so a lot more shade.
But there are still some cottonwoods there that when Laura Ingalls Wilder came back from, where'd she end up moving with her husband? Missouri or something?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. They moved so many times I couldn't keep track.
Well, she came back and at some point, and she did confirm that some of the trees that are there still were trees that her pa had planted,
yeah.
And she helped him with a number of them, so that was pretty fascinating. And of course, they do have, I want to mention, they have a small RV park there. I think there's like 4 sites or something, 4 or 5 sites. They also have some sheep wagons you can actually rent to stay in. If we had not already had other plans, we would have had to do that.
Yeah, I would love to have done that.
And we actually talked about, we might just go back and do that. Because that would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
So, and they do have, like, the old schoolhouse has been moved. It was, I believe, closer to town at the time, but that's been moved and is actually on the property a little bit distant, so people do tours there as well.
Yeah, this is the entranceway to the, I call it an underground home. I think they call it a dugout kind of home, where it was actually in the hillside. So when a lot of pioneers first got there, there's very little resources for trees and other things to cut down, so they actually dig into a hillside and they use sod for the walls.
Yeah, that was pretty fascinating to see. And those in the background there are some of the cottonwood trees that they did plant on the property. And that white building there, it looks like an old schoolhouse or something, they actually have like a museum in there with some cool different stuff.
Yeah, they have a whole covered wagon there that you can sit in. And anyways, you can take the covered wagon rides. I don't know, our time schedule didn't match up, so we didn't get to go on one, but they can take you around, and down that road is the church. So
maybe when we go back and stay in one of the sheep wagons, we can do the horse-drawn wagon ride, huh?
Yeah, I'd love to go back.
Apparently we're committed now.
So here's the covered wagon. That's me at the other end, so you can kind of get a size scale of it. And I believe that's an original. I don't think that's a reproduction of that covered wagon.
That's my understanding, is that's a legit from the era covered wagon. And I thought this was pretty fascinating. They had a little informational thing on it, sign on it, saying a home on wheels. In the 1880s, many settlers fashioned their wood farm wagons into covered wagons by outfitting them with protective covers stitched out of heavy cotton duck material. When settlers reached their destination, the wagon box was removed from the running gear and set on the ground, making their first home on their claim. The running gear would then be used to haul materials to build a more permanent home. So I'm, of course, being a nomad, I'm like, hey, that's like if you buy a homestead and you park your travel trailer on it, or your van, right? I mean, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Some things never change. Yeah. Okay, so this is the dugout that Melanie was mentioning, and they actually have this dugout there. It's really cool to be able to see it and walk in and check it out. I was surprised.
Yeah, so was I. I didn't realize that, of course, they didn't have the resources really on the prairie to just build a regular homestead right from house from the beginning. So they take the top layer of the soil off and they stack it, and that becomes the walls on the inside. Of course, they had to dig it out first, which I can imagine had to have been a lot of labor and work.
I cannot even imagine digging through the soil in that prairie with hand tools.
But this was a very hot day when we were there, and when you went in, it was so cool in there. It was very nice.
It was, and it was fascinating to be able to see it. It also was a little bit like, and I complain sometimes about the size of a 7x21 travel trailer. And this was something that came up several other times during our tour of things on the homestead, was that size is subjective, and as Americans, modern Americans, our idea of size is a little bigger than,
Because there was at least 5 of them, I think, when they first came there, wasn't there? I'm trying to think.
I'm not sure, but there was. I know at some point there was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, there's also a shanty. I think Melanie mentioned these already too, but they have a shanty there. There was another family that's mentioned from the books. This is the shanty, the shack that was brought here and to the site, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It has tar paper on the outside, and these were, I guess, the more wealthy pioneers, and they would have brought their lumber, I think, for this kind of setup, and a stove. The other one had a littler stove. This one had a bigger stove.
I think people had to bring their own lumber, or they had to pay freight to have it shipped in, because you weren't getting it locally.
There is not a whole lot of trees there. So.
And I found it fascinating that they lined the inside of the walls with newspaper. My parents, for a number of years, had a Revolutionary War era farmhouse in upstate New York, and the walls were insulated. In the old house, the walls were insulated with newspaper.
Wow!
So this was apparently just the way it was done back in the day. I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah. So this is all like the old. What it looked like, it was an old Sears and Roebuck catalog.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like to me in newspapers and stuff.
Yeah, and then they had the wood stoves in the shanty and in the sod dugout.
Yeah, and when you say wood stoves, a lot of times they weren't really burning wood. What they would do is they would take sheaths of grass and just wind it really tight, and that was enough to kind of create the log that they would burn.
Yeah, I had not known that either. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, I knew about meadow muffins.
Oh yes, they also burned the meadow muffins, which, of course, is dung, what they had left from the horses and cows and all. And I've heard other cultures too burning that it's a very steady burning, I guess, fuel.
Cowboys too. They burned it too. Out on the range. Yeah. This was one of the shocks for me. The barn, where what do they call it? A stable, I think. But it was much smaller than I had imagined or remembered based on the TV show. She probably described it this way in the book, but Now, when they moved to this area, it was based on I forgot what the act was. It was the Homestead Act. I don't remember
the
the full
Homestead Act, I guess. Anyways, back then, and they had to make certain improvements to the land in order to be qualified, and I'm trying to think how much the land costs, and
they had to prove up was the term they used.
Anyways,
so they had the 160 acre plot, and they had to have so many acres cultivated and a house on it and a barn and some other things.
I think a barn or something.
And if they did that for 5 years, they could prove up and turn in the paperwork to the government. They had to pay a fee that I forget how much that was, but they had to pay a filing fee, and they got the land for free.
Yeah.
So it was, if you didn't have the money to go buy a 160 acre parcel, that was a
but this sod
fantastic opportunity.
Roof on the barn was actually one of the improvements.
Yeah, and that I just can't even. Yeah. And it was interesting too, because they were talking about the difference between they were growing hay on the prairie, but they also had hay in a slough on the property, and they would use the slough hay for burning and for roofing and stuff because it wasn't as good of a nutritional quality.
Yeah, but in times of drought, they said that was actually what they could use was those hay run along the slough to feed.
Right, you had a drought, you do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Hard times, yeah. And of course, they had chickens, and they were noting that the taking care of the chickens was often the kids' job. That was one of the tasks that fell to kids. It was a family operation for real. I mean, and he said there was a lot of times when they had to help out. It wasn't.
My father said he had to do that when he was a kid. He took care of the chickens, and whatever money he could make and sell from that was, giving back to the family. Used to help the family. So.
Yeah, you just different mindset.
Yeah.
They even have the old well there still, the shallow well with an iron pump on it.
I was amazed when they said he only had to dig it down, I think 9 feet or something to get.
It was
the
quite
water.
shallow, yeah.
I was just like, wow, that's not what I'm used to.
And it does work still. Well, I tried it out.
I imagine before that they had to go down to the slough or something and lug it up by buckets.
Melanie said I was brave.
Oh yes, he
Maybe foolish, I don't know.
Drank the water. I wasn't so sure about that.
They did have a nice looking garden. I was kind of envious
They did.
of that.
They had a great
Speaking of
variety
homesteading, right?
things.
I mean,
Yeah, a lot of vegetables.
and these are some trees around here that are, I believe, not original, but they are planted where they were planted in a ring around the house. The house is a recreation based on historical information, but it's not the original little house on the prairie. And it was a lot smaller than I remembered from the TV show as well. And
So
yeah, you start thinking about 5 people living in there, 6 people living in there.
This first room was the original, and then they added on later. So they would have built this in the first few years that they were there.
Yeah, the 2
couple years.
bedrooms off the back there were add-ons.
The 2 bedrooms, and there's another side room as well that was an add-on.
And speaking of the side room,
So this isn't the original organ, but there was an organ, if you remember in the books, that Mary got, and they built a room for it, and there's a sewing machine there too.
and it's a pump organ, and Melanie was trying to figure out how to work it. So pretty cool.
You got a. Was it air organ? I can't remember, but you have
pump organ.
Pump organ, yeah. So you have to use your feet and go back and forth like this and play with your hands at the same time.
They weren't connected to the grid for electricity, so
yeah.
you got to power the organ somehow.
Well,
That's with a foot
most
pump.
pianos don't have electricity, anyways. But I thought that was interesting.
Then, speaking of off-grid,
The
there's laundry, right? This was cool. I mean, they really is kind of a fairly hands-on tour.
It is, yeah.
which was kind of fascinating.
Really give
From
you
getting
that
to
feel.
pump the pump organ and play it to doing some laundry while you're there.
Yeah. So regular washboard and soap and a couple of buckets and then the ringer. The ringer was the main thing that really helped a lot of people, folks, squeeze out that water. And
I think you're making the volunteer a little nervous about not running your fingers through the rollers. But she's probably nervous with everybody there that they don't run their fingers through the roller. But it's pretty cool seeing it in use.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it comes out the other side and you rinse it out and then you put it through the roller again. And
then of course you got to hang it up to dry.
And then you got to hang it up to dry. And these are the old, they aren't the spring clips you usually use for laundry. These were, just pegs,
I saw a video on YouTube that how to carve these.
That's what I was wondering.
So I think I'm going to have to make some.
I was thinking, I can carve those.
And then there's another big barn there that, of course, is not original, but they have some interesting exhibits in it, including a really cool wagon and some historic farm tools that are legit from that era, along with some informational board sharing, information about them and everything. Some of them I was able to guess, some not so
all
much.
these old tools. Those were great.
All right, so that's some of our sites we saw there, some of the things we saw there. It was really, really cool. There is a large visitor center with different things there, but this is just all out on the grounds, and I really enjoyed it. I think Melanie enjoyed it
too. Yeah.
I don't want to speak for her, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was worth the detour. We did not get into the little town of DeSmet.
No.
We are going to go back.
But yeah.
We kind of forgot, I think, because we had planned on seeing DeSmet, and we came in from the south, so we were like a couple miles from DeSmet, and I think we just forgot to go up into DeSmet.
It was late in the day, so.
It was late in the day, and we had to find a place to sleep. So, but it was very cool. We do intend to go back sometime to check out the sheep wagons.
Yeah.
To camp there.
Yeah,
we'll check out DeSmet at that time.
Around here in Wyoming too, those sheep wagons. So.
Well, yeah, South Dakota or Wyoming. We're going to do that one of these times, and we'll be filming it for you guys, so you can see us camping in a sheep wagon because that's really cool. Got to do it. I mean, I know I have a van that's the same size, but it's not the same, I mean. And it is, if you go up there, it is, I think it was $20 a piece for admission.
Yeah.
It was worth it, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was they do a lot of work to keep this place going, and it's fantastic. So I think it was worth it. Other than that, we'll have a link to their website in the description. It's lauraingleswilderhome.com if you want to check it out. But we'll have a link down in the video description so you can see that. They have their Wilder Days, September 23 and 24, which is this week. It's annual celebration commemorating Laura Ingalls Wilder, America's favorite pioneer girl, and her cherished Little House books. We're having our 7th annual fiddle contest on Wilder Day. It'll be a great day to enjoy fiddle music on the property, as well as to hear Pa's fiddle played. That sounds awesome,
isn't it? Yeah.
I almost want to go cruise back over there.
Yeah.
What do you know? I don't know. If you leave a comment and say go back and do it, we might just go back and do it because it's a day trip from here. I mean, we could do it. So that's the 23rd and 24th. We're recording this on the 20th, so it's actually coming up. But I'm sharing that in case any of you are traveling in that area and you want to snag it still. Otherwise, you can bookmark it for next year. But we'll have the website in the video description with that information. And like I was saying before, through Sunday the 25th, we have the Off-Grid Homestead Bundle, $50 for $6,400 or something worth of resources, all about homesteading, off-grid living, nomadic life, simple, sustainable living, all that stuff. If you're interested in any of this stuff, you won't find another deal like this. Only catch at all is it's only available through September 25th, Sunday, September 25th. So check that out if you're interested. Link to that in the video description below as well. If you like this video, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already for more content like this. And we'll catch you in the next video.